of RCR Wireless News. I'd like to welcome everyone to the webinar today and thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. Today's webinar will address the upcoming Wi-Fi and Content Management RFP for the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. Joining me are our featured speakers from the DFW Airport, Michael Baldwin, Assistant Vice President of Concessions, John Parrish, Assistant Vice President, Terminal Systems, and Ali Namadi, Manager of Telecommunications. Today's format will include a presentation by our featured speakers, followed by audience Q&A. Questions can be submitted anytime during the session by using your GoToWebinar control panel in the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. We have a large group here today, but we'll do our best to get to as many questions as possible. Before we get started, I wanted to provide a little background on our featured speakers. Ali Namadi, Manager of Telecommunications for DFW Airport, is responsible for all telecommunications infrastructure and systems engineering. John Parrish is the Assistant Vice President of Terminal Systems. John oversees and participates in the selection and maintenance of technology that affects DFW's facilities and operations, including passenger terminals. He also leads the effort in the research and development of new technologies that enhance the travel experience for DFW's 57 million annual guests. Michael Baldwin, our third speaker, is the Assistant Vice President of Concessions at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. Michael is a seasoned executive leader with over 30 years of diverse experience in airport concessions consulting. Currently, as a member of the senior management team for DFW's concessions department, Michael shares responsibility with his team for achieving $245 million in annual sales and $69 million in annual revenues. Michael is going to kick it off for us today. Michael, thanks so much for joining us.
And thank you, John, as well. We appreciate it tremendously for sharing that information and having this opportunity for DFW to share with so many attendees. And would like to further welcome everyone to this opportunity, to the webinar. Again, my name is Michael Baldwin, and we're very happy to share this information regarding our forthcoming Wi-Fi and Content Management RFP. First, we'd like to talk about just a rundown from a content standpoint. We're going to talk today about the overview of the opportunity, the Terminal Renewal and Improvement Program, which is what we call TRIP, and our timeline relative to the TRIP program, passenger demographics, how to write a proposal effectively, our ACDBE requirements, advertising and sponsorship, branding opportunities, digital messaging content management overview, and the Wi-Fi overview, and the timeline with regard to the request for proposal. So why don't we kick it off by talking about the Wi-Fi and digital messaging overall, if you will. This RFP is for the installation, operation, and maintenance and management, sponsorship for the Wi-Fi services, and the content management. It includes opportunities for a select provider to display advertising and sponsorship branding as an end result. From a Wi-Fi standpoint, we're looking to incorporate a hybrid model that includes both a complimentary program as well as a paid service. Today, we have a paid service. From an overview with regarding to our Terminal Renewal and Improvement Program, we're relifing our original terminals that are 40 years old, almost 40 years old today, if you will. We have a newer terminal that is Terminal D that is roughly 6 or 7 years old. But TRIP will replace the aging infrastructure and meet the DFW core obligations by replacing our building systems to address regulatory and code requirements. We've got a lot of old systems here. We're going to improve our ticketing and security checkpoints. They will be enhanced, baggage handling systems, but just the entire infrastructure there. The objective is to enhance our finishes and passenger amenity improvement. So as it relates to this particular RFP, you talk about passenger amenity improvements. This is directly linked to the improvement process, and the elements ultimately will yield enhanced customer service experiences at DFW. If you look at the photos there, you can kind of look and see what we're talking about doing is from some of the enhancement standpoint. These are just some renderings of what we're going to look like going forward. Our departure hall, we're looking to reconfigure our ticketing areas, incorporate new self-service technologies. I mean, obviously, if you look at the photo in the upper right-hand corner there, this is what we look like today. And the lower photo shows where we're heading. We're going to look to provide a premium experience from a check-in standpoint, increasing the flow of the passengers. We want to enhance the sense of place, but more importantly, we want to increase natural lighting, and we're going to brighten our terminals. You can imagine after 40 years, we're probably long overdue. So we're very excited about what TRIP is going to bring to the table. From a timeline standpoint, this project actually started earlier this year in 2011 and will run through 2017. So we started with Terminal A and we will end with Terminal C. Now what's not shown here is that, as I said earlier, we opened Terminal D in 2005, if you will. So by the time we complete 2017, we'll be looking at the phasing of Terminal D from an update standpoint as well. So more to come on that. Let's talk about doing business at DFW from a passenger demographic standpoint. We conduct intercept surveys on a continuous basis to determine our preferences and behaviors of our passengers, if you will. We look at the demographics and the flight frequencies. So we're always assessing what do we do to meet and exceed the passengers' needs. So obviously when we talk about our RFP for Wi-Fi and content management, we're looking at what the next generation calls for. Our passenger demographics today, the average age is 44 years of age. So we've got a mix of passengers if you look at this slide in particular. Also, you look from an income bracket standpoint, they're pretty high. Our average household income is more than $100,000 per year. But this actually shows a vast range, which really says that we've got, not only do we have millions coming through, but we have millions that are coming through, of which you look at this 23% that's featured here, shows that they have the dollars and the extra spending capability as they're traveling. From a gender standpoint, we're kind of evenly split. You got 53% male, 47% female travelers. So what we're looking to do, one of the things with the TRIP program, is to look at how do we even enhance more opportunities for the female travelers that has not been so dominant in the past. But we think it's another opportunity to look at our holistic program. From ethnicity standpoint, it's 24% of our passenger mix is diverse. So again, we're looking at the entire program that we have. What does that look like from our customer demographic standpoint? As I said earlier, we do a lot of intercept studies, if you will, and from a technology statistics standpoint, we look at the fact that 61% of our passengers had access to the internet while waiting at DFW. So how does this directly relate to what we're talking about with the RFP? Of those getting on the internet, 71% have smartphones, and of that 71%, 23% use Wi-Fi, okay? I should say of the 61%, 23% use Wi-Fi, and then 75% use cellular. So when you stop and think about it, we got a wide range, and we've got a variety of which at some point somebody is utilizing these services, and we have the wherewithal to bring a robust customer base to capitalize on services. I want to talk briefly about how to write a proposal, because we think it's important that we touch base on this. Our proposal process highlights. We kind of say it sounds simple, but we also want to say that not as simple as it sounds. Unfortunately, sometimes we get proposals that are submitted where they have not thoroughly read the request for proposal. So we want to be certain that we emphasize the importance of thoroughly reading it. The proposals will be made available on our website, and this helps you to understand the board's business model, our business environment, and our clientele. So if you just look at or click on at the appropriate time the DFW airport.com/opportunities website, that will give you access to this information. And there's a wealth of information there. We actually have outreach programs that we've conducted, that those are cast and things of that nature. So a lot of great information is available as you're looking at this opportunity. Again, continuing how to write a proposal, the process highlights, if you will. You need to assess your company's business model and long-term objectives. Do you meet or exceed the minimum qualification required for the RFP? Assess challenges and determine early what partnerships and subcontractors are required, because the RFP does have certain requirements with certain partnerships, certain relationships. So it's imperative that you take a look at that from an ACDBE. And ACDBE, if you will, stands for Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprises, and DMWBE opportunities. We always say plan before you write. We typically, after receiving proposals and after awards are made, we have debriefings and whatever, and we notice that a lot of times companies submit and have not effectively planned before they've written their proposals. Cross-reference with proposal requirements and the objectives associated with that. And just what we're wanting to do, frankly speaking, is provide a very open and fair process, and that's what we want a two-way street with, if you will. Let's talk about the basics of the RFP, the key components, if you will. The RFP, approximately 100 pages, will include fundamentals of the RFP process, an overview of available opportunities, the timeline, the scope of work relative to the Wi-Fi, that's available, and the sponsorship branding opportunity. This is huge to understand this, because the advertising/sponsorship branding is a tremendous value at DFW, the third busiest airport in the world. So I want to reemphasize that. That's important to know that we're the third busiest airport in the world. Looking at the minimum qualifications, very important. The terms of the concession agreement, we talked early on the previous slide about the ACDBE and MWBE components. The preparation instructions, the function specifications, that's very important as you look at the content management component, the specifications, and the draft agreement that would be included with the RFP. There are 9 sets of your proposal, if you will, that will be required, one electronic version, and that's submitted in Adobe or Word format, and it says a proposal is limited to 60 pages in 11-point font. So look at all of the information that's being requested. Now let me give you some key dates here. Very important. The RFP is being released on September 27th, a couple of weeks out, and the pre-proposal conference that we will have will be held on October the 17th. Now, all of this information will be made available to you when you actually access the information online. November the 4th, we'll have our deadline for all of the questions, and the next bullet is so important. I can't overemphasize that the proposals are due on November the 18th by 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now, we've actually had people show up with proposals 1 minute after, and unfortunately, we've had to turn them around and not accept their proposals. And I'm talking about some great proposals at times. So we just, again, want to emphasize the importance there, and that you provide the details in your proposal that specifically respond to the scope of work. Again, that goes back to, as stated earlier, reading the information thoroughly and communicating appropriately. You know, the RFP, if you will, is your chance to tell about your company. It's your opportunity to sell your company to DFW International Airport. We think the RFP, the language there allows DFW to sell DFW to you, and this is your opportunity to respond. Put all the key items or key selling points in the executive summary. We've incorporated an executive summary for the purpose of you being able to call out specific areas relative to your particular company, your particular operation. So in that executive summary, that's going to be a key point to drive to look at certain components of that RFP that you're submitting. You know, what's going to help your company or your concept stand out versus the others. So focus on telling your story above and beyond anything else. Tell your story. A lot of times RFPs come in and companies feel as though they'll get a chance to interview. Well, that may not occur, so those will be delivered on a limited basis, not guaranteed. So put your best foot forward with your RFP. Thank you. So I want to incorporate an understanding, a role here that's with our procurement department, because the proposals are delivered to our procurement office at a specified time, and procurement will determine if those proposals are responsive or not. Do they meet the minimum requirements that have been requested? There's a cashier's check that's to be submitted for the proposal, with the proposal. So a statement of financial offer, please look at that very intently, because we've had RFPs show up without the submittal of the check, and those are rejected. So again, just please take note. Our contract administrator, her name is Miriam Seymour, and this is her number. This will be made available to you as you, again, access the information as you're submitting your RFP. I want to give a quick overview of the ACD. Is a valuable consideration in awarding of the concessions program, concessions agreement. The aspirational ACDMWBE, goal for year one is 15%. That could entail removal of old systems and installation of new systems, but that's kind of like a subcontracting initiative, but that's 15%. But the ongoing goal, years 2 through the entire contract, is 10% there. So please bear in mind that that goal can be met through an equity ownership participation, subcontracting, or supplier participation. That information will be made available also as you read through the RFP. Here's some of the options to achieve the goal: direct ownership arrangements, joint ventures, partnerships, corporate ownerships, sublease arrangements, franchises, just to name a few. But again, wanted to share that that will kind of, that will be spelled out more definitively in the RFP. The various components of the solicitation to explore the options are the display systems, which you'll see more of, monitors and Wi-Fi, digital messaging, content management systems, and the advertising and sponsorship branding as shared earlier. So let's talk about the advertising, sponsorship branding opportunities. The sponsorship branding, okay, this RFP is to provide a turnkey solution for installation, operation, maintenance, management, and managed services, okay? Now, that's an enterprise solution that I just referenced. as an end result, there are advertising opportunities, there are sponsorship branding opportunities on the Wi-Fi system, on specific approved information display systems. So what we have in the pictures here, for example, to the left here we have a Samsung Power Center that's located in our Terminal C. And this, again, is a great opportunity for branding, if you will. This is what Samsung yielded as an end result of the relationship. And then to the right, in our new Terminal D, in the mezzanine area, we have the mini theaters. The mini theaters, they have about 10 televisions, and they all show different content, if you will, but it's branded DFW and Samsung, but very nice opportunities. Again, when you look at the number of employments that we have at our airport and the number of eyes that get to see your brand, there's a great value associated with the relationship. Content management. From a content management standpoint, we're talking about the digital messaging and content management systems for all of our information systems. You're talking about flight information displays, baggage claim, the gate information displays, directional information, concession awareness displays, which we're developing new displays every day. But as you look at the video walls, there to the right there we have our video wall that content management will be supporting. So what about the opportunity to sponsorship something of that caliber to display your brand identity, your brand awareness there? And then we have Wi-Fi. We talk about a multi-tiered program that we referenced earlier that will be a hybrid that will endeavor to support mobile and smart devices. Obviously, we all know that's where it all is today and where it's headed in the future even more appropriately. It includes options for both the complimentary and paid service, and we're looking at how do we build so that we incorporate future technologies and what that brings to the table. And finally, from the standpoint of understanding our program, the Wi-Fi and digital messaging content management will be totally supported through advertising and sponsorship branding opportunities. The selected company, as stated earlier, will have the opportunity to advertise on the Wi-Fi system and to provide their product or products, the intellectual property or sponsorship branding on the information display systems. And again, as stated earlier, here's some of the systems that are referenced to the earlier slide. And so as an end result, it allows the opportunity to speak to your company and your concept and to speak to our multi-diverse traveling public. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to hand this off to John Parrish, our Assistant Vice President of Terminal Systems, to talk more in depth about the content management overview.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon your particular time zone. What I'm going to do for the next few moments is talk at a very high level about our content management concepts. Today, very broadly speaking, as you are likely aware, there are quite a number of video sources that are present in the airports and shopping malls and everywhere else you go, right? From CCTV to satellite TV to, in our case, information displays. Traditionally, historically, as they have been deployed in a stovepipe fashion. And the result is that the end displays are more or less assigned to a specific task. That is to say, the CCTV displays display CCTV stuff, and they don't display stuff from any of the other stovepipes. Generally speaking, what we're trying to do is change that model. And it's not rocket science. It is video content management with which many of you are already familiar. What we're trying to do is to take into account both aspects of the supply chain, that is to say, the content management portion, the scheduling and providing proof of play and so forth of the content, as well as the video distribution. The point here is that we will take video from multiple sources and inject them into a centralized content management solution. And that content management solution will use a source-agnostic distribution methodology so that there is an abstraction layer between the devices, the display devices, and the video sources. So imagine you see the yellow box there. Let's drill down a little bit on the yellow box, and let's say that that yellow box is flight information displays. So flight information displays, I'm sure you're familiar with. You've gone to the airport, and you look for those displays to determine whether or not your airplane is on time and what gate it's leaving from and so forth. So today, at DFW and in many places, in many airports around the country, the flight information display system is set up sort of like this, that there is a FIDS server, a flight information display server, that accesses data from a database, generates HTML pages, and sends them out to a client that manages the display. Here at DFW, we have not always had, and do not have at the moment, Ethernet accessibility to each display. That is to say, some displays are outside of Ethernet distance limitations. So what you see here is a Blade PC from a company, a Texas company, called ClearCube, and a Blade PC is essentially what it says is a PC in a Blade format. So it has a chassis and has 8 or 9 blades in the chassis. And the things in the middle are essentially video extenders so that we can reach those display devices that are outside of Ethernet distance. And each of these instances, we have multiple of these instances around the entire airport campus. So if the red line is the driver, and for me it's green, I don't know what color for you, the other line is the display devices, we have these display devices along with their drivers situated in each of the terminals. What you see going in place there is Terminal D. What we're trying to do is take away or relocate the drivers from being regionally situated, if you will, in each of the terminals to being centrally situated. And then introducing the notion of content management. Our goal then is to be able to manage and distribute the content from a central location, or specifically going from a logical model to a physical model, from two disparately located, functionally redundant locations. But the notion is that we will centralize the video distribution, the video content management and distribution of all of those different types. Michael showed you in the earlier slide FIDS displays and BIDS displays, baggage information. So the video walls, advertising, the notion is that the management and distribution of all of that video content would be done from a centralized location. I think that about covers it for me. Next, we'll be hearing from Ali Namati, who will talk to you about the wireless component.
All right. Thanks, John. Again, this is Ali Namati. I'm the telecommunication manager for the board, and part of the responsibility that I have is Wi-Fi. So what I'd like to do is kind of review some of the concepts that you kind of seen in the first few slides you saw. One was the system is turnkey solution. So again, part of the system will be included what you have here. So one of them would be the high speed and feature rich for internet services based on this Wi-Fi system. As you see that there is a lot of need in the space, and the space are consists of public and private. So public meaning that all the passengers coming through, connecting, and basically checking emails and whatnot. And on the private side, basically we have all the stores within the terminals, and also including the DFW airport itself, that it actually could set up a private infrastructure, meaning SSIDs, to be able to take advantage of that. And also, systems should be a support of digital messaging. As you see, the content that we're trying to deliver in some areas is challenging from an Ethernet perspective. But again, we have a couple of projects in place right now that extends the Ethernet distance within the terminals, and that would be inclusive of the support of the digital signage program. But also, there's some areas that Wi-Fi could definitely play a role. All this program is really inclusive of all the costs and all the wide area network linkage. Let me kind of explain what that means. We have a central point at the airport, which is basically a Verizon central office, kind of a way in and way out. And also within the terminals, we have 2 MPOEs, which is main point of entries. And within this common space, which either switches or APs would exist, they would be aggregated, and from there you can have another aggregation point, and then your WAN connection could come from the central office to that location. As John was talking about, as for server farm for digital signage, could be on data center, so could be the WAN link as well. On the customer side, again, we're expecting to have the network operations center to basically monitor and ensure the services, as well as issues for the customer's connectivity and compatibility and those type of concepts. And as well as you see the inclusiveness of all the required detailed radio frequency. Part of the process that we kind of put in place back in 2001 was the wireless policy with the airport, meaning that in the past, before that, we had a lot of folks and a lot of businesses were implementing Wi-Fi anywhere they could, and that kind of created an environment for us that no one really could use the Wi-Fi in a substantial way. So part of the process is that we do the mapping of the frequencies, what's around, and then also we run that against the design, which would be a detailed design developed, as well as once the installation is done, there would be another mapping done so we know what footprint has really changed. On the last piece, the last item here, support for terminal renovation, the TRIP program. As you saw in the previous slides, there's a detail, or at least a high-level view of timeline for TRIP. It is very important for you to reference that. There's an existing system, which basically we're going to repeat that in the next slide, but the TRIP program itself, meaning that in the areas that the terminal renovation has taken place, would be a new system coming in, and that new system would be based on a detailed design that's going to be developed. The scope also including the managing the existing system. As I said, there's a system already there, it's functional and is working, and is in all terminals, including Grand Hyatt, which is part of Terminal D hotel that we have. And this also includes the roaming with roaming partners as far as the accounts, and customer billing, which is part of your services, including the account management. As I indicated, radio frequency and channel mapping coordination. This is areas that we have, once the system goes in, we have others that they're interested to put their own systems in, which is not that many of them, but still there's a coordination that has to take place. So this scope includes those type of coordination efforts, making sure the system is not impacted or we're not impacting other systems. We have also an integration point with DFW network. So there are, as I said on the last slide, there would be private SSIDs that we're going to be using internally. And there could be in the future opportunities for us to tie in other third-party support for specific services that we're going to be running off of the Wi-Fi. And that would be authorized by the board and also would be extended to the system. The systems also would be including of refresh technology. This is hardware, software, and other feature sets. And that would be reviewed on the quarterly basis, and some annual basis, and an annual basis. So making sure that we keeping up with the changes, as well as some of the features that could really enhance the services and extending those feature sets that could actually help passengers, as well as the content management also. And then we also making sure that one of the key aspects of this is the guest experience. And as we said, that there could be, I think Michael was referencing one of the slides as far as having complimentary or having advertising opportunity on those portfolios. So You're going to see more detail of that in the RFP that we'll be talking about those type of services that we're asking for. And one last thing is that from the aggregation points, as terminals as large as they are, in the past we have aggregated this traffic, meaning your data network extension, to a local comm room, which is away from the terminals, and that would be connected to the central office based on the last one, which is the Verizon services. So there's opportunity for getting that aggregation point placed anywhere within airports. So from infrastructure perspective, we are extending these services to support this endeavor. So part of the DFW airports, like my own scope, is that we're extending the power and Ethernet, cabling and whatnot for this system. So meaning that within the common room space, we're already allocating cabinets and power and as well as media. So just want to make sure that you know that, because that is a big investment that we're making on the airport side. This concludes the presentation portion of this, and I'd like to turn it back to John, and basically we can go to Q&A. Or do you have any comments, Michael?
To close out our...
Sorry, Michael, did you want to say something?
Yeah, we're going to close out some background information just to kind of wrap it up before we go back to John, if you will, in Q&A. And that is just from the aspects of understanding our travelers, okay, when we package it all from what you've heard today, the opportunity is relative to 56.4 million passengers that travel through DFW annually, which equates to more than 153,000 daily, okay? And that's approximately twice the numbers of passengers that travel through DFW annually as compared to tourists visiting Times Square in New York. So we just wanted to kind of share that from a magnitude standpoint. And then while they're traveling, the average dwell time is approximately 91 minutes in the terminals. And 1 out of 9 connecting passengers in the United States connects through DFW. As stated earlier, I stated that DFW is the 3rd busiest airport in the world. That's in terms of operations, and yet we're the 8th busiest in terms of passengers. Again, 56.4 million passengers, of which over 5 million were international passengers. So we have a great customer base, and we thank you for listening in. So at this time, we'd like to go to question and answers.
Okay. I'd like to thank Michael and John and Ali. What a great presentation. DFW provides a unique branding opportunity, and Michael just stated that 9 in 10 passengers flying through the United States connect at DFW Airport. As you see in the presentation is one of our sponsors. We have others, Pepsi to name a few. Michael, can you share with us what does Pepsi and Samsung think about the sponsorship and partnership here at DFW Airport?
Well, I'll tell you first, Pepsi is the soft drink of choice. They have a sponsorship here that has been in existence for quite a few years, and they think that unlike any other relationship, especially from the travel industry, DFW allows them the wherewithal to partner and to sample different products, to market their product, to talk to our demographics of travelers. They think it's a great opportunity. At the same time, Samsung has found a tremendous niche with DFW, because not only did they launch a robust program, sponsorship program at DFW, but it allowed them to expand to other airports as an end result of the relationship. And so it's been a tremendously beneficial opportunity, so that they've shared with us.
Okay. We discussed the Wi-Fi and touch base on future complimentary and paid Wi-Fi options. In the future, there will be 3-tier options for customers accessing the Wi-Fi system. Michael, could you provide more details on the guest experience with the Wi-Fi?
Well, from a guest experience standpoint, As I stated earlier in the presentation, today we have a paid model. And what we did was we looked at the fact that you have a lot of travelers that have requested a complimentary program or a free program. And what we decided to do was come up with a program that allowed those that wanted to spend time on the internet just for an unlimited time period to have the complimentary program. And there are certain components of that program that from a speed standpoint that may not be as fast as maybe the paid program, but it does allow and address the customer need and the customers to be able to have access from the standpoint of playing games or so be it as they're spending time in the airport. The complimentary / paid program is a medium speed program, but it's a user-friendly program. It provides easy access. It provides customer service support. And what happens is the passenger, for the first 20 minutes, has complimentary service, and then they can purchase, should they want, to access for longer periods of time. Then the third program, if you will, is a full paid program that's a high-speed program. With the previous two programs, the passengers are required to look at a video. That may be a branding opportunity, for example. But with the full paid program, it's, again, high speed. The customers are not required to watch any videos or commercials or anything like that. So that's kind of like a high side of the hybrid program that we're speaking to.
Okay. One of our listeners has asked a question. It says, can a successful bidder also contract with other content providers, advertisers, and deliver it across the system?
What the successful proposer can do is, when you say across the system, there are, as we say it, sponsorship branding opportunities, but third-party advertising across the system is not available because those are information systems, but obviously it does allow for your company to brand, if you will. Now, there are certain components that you will be able to advertise on, and those are some of the components that we will collaboratively develop with you in some cases, but primarily on the passenger information systems, we want to be able to say that you are a branded entity tied into DFW.
Okay. John, I believe this question goes to you. Is there a defined technology that DFW has identified as one you would want used for managing and delivering content?
The answer is yes. When you receive the specification, you will see that we have specified Nexus App Space and Cisco for the content management and Cisco's products for the video distribution.
Okay. It says, are you looking to replace or add new Wi-Fi networks within an existing infrastructure? Ali, I believe that would be your question.
Of course, the existing infrastructure will be removed. So part of the trip is, as you saw, they will be renovating those spaces. So anything in the ceiling grids will come down and whatnot. And that's what we're talking about, is that the new infrastructure would be directed from the common room space, and we're replacing what is there. So that is the yes.
John Scarborough, who is our organizer, just reminded us, for us to remind our listeners, if you would, please go to the GoToWebinar control panel to submit your questions, and we will do our best to answer them during this time that we have. Also, there was a question earlier, Ali, about who owns the existing system or infrastructure, who put it in.
T-Mobile is providing service today in all terminals, including Grand Hyatt, and that was put in 2005.
And are there any legacy systems that the provider will need to manage?
Legacy system would be the Wi-Fi itself, and there would be a transition period for this contract. So it is, as I said in my in my presentation that they have to manage the existing systems and replacing that existing system while we're doing that.
This question comes from the financial aspect, and it says, is DFW going to ask for a minimum amount to be paid to them annually? Who will market and manage the advertising side? Okay, that's two separate questions. So let's talk about the minimum amount to be paid annually.
Yes, the RFP will call for a minimum annual guarantee.
And then the next question, it says, who will market and manage the advertising side? I'll leave that go to you.
On managing and marketing the advertising side, we're looking for the a part of the sponsorship to have kind of like a third party, kind of like we talked about managed services, if you will. Well, you as a provider will be providing that from a management standpoint. So let's just take, for example, an advertiser does want to advertise. They would have to submit through your program, if you will, because this content management is as we referenced earlier, this is a turnkey solution. So let's just say today on our video walls, if there's a provider today, or someone is advertising on the video walls today, and that's through our advertiser of choice, if you will, which today is Clear Channel, what in fact would happen is, let's say that they contracted with Clear Channel. Clear Channel would have to go through our content management program, our system, and to ensure that we have uniformity throughout the entire program.
Okay, good. Thank you, Michael. John, I believe this question goes to you. Will all monitors be installed and paid for through the TRIP program, or will this program determine, procure, and install monitors?
This project, this RFP does not require the purchase or installation of any monitor.
Okay. Still getting a few questions in. Just hold on just a second. Okay, here's another one. Does T-Mobile monitor and maintain the network as well as owning it? I think you talked about that. You may want to clarify that.
T-Mobile today is managing that infrastructure, monitoring it with all the customer cares, as well as coordinating efforts with us internally.
I believe we have about 10 more minutes on the webinar. For those that would like to ask questions, again, please go to the webinar control panel to submit your questions, and we will do our best to answer it within the time frame that is allotted to us. John, I probably need to turn it back over to you. It appears that we've answered all the questions. Wait a minute, here comes another one. Will Clear Channel sell the ads?
No, Clear Channel will not sell the ads. But again, Clear Channel today is our advertising agency of choice.
Okay. Distributed antenna systems for cellular, let's see here. Distributed antennas or cellular signal distribution with DFW set in the minimum max. Not sure what they're asking there. Distributed antenna systems for cellular signal distribution.
Well, let me kind of explain that. We have, this is Allie, we have a DAS system which carriers are on it. So that's on the cellular side. And so that is a separate system from the Wi-Fi system, if I may kind of read between the lines of the question. So there are two separate systems and no connectivity between the two. However, I think what Michael was talking about in the slide, the smart devices have the capability to look at those. As far as the voice technology, will go on the DAS side, and then as far as the Wi-Fi would be for the data pattern. Of course, on the DAS side, you have technology and you have capability for the user perspective to get that data plans taken care of as well. So, but again, what we have is two separate systems and two-way traffic.
Okay. One of our listeners says, will I have the ability to customize the experience when the user first signs on? We're talking about the Wi-Fi system.
I think that would be something that we can take a look at once it's proposed.
This gentleman is asking for, would I need to contact Miriam directly to provide cabinets for your upgrades and new equipment? Probably talking about the procurement process.
Again, you know, what I kind of tried to mention quickly was that within the comm room space that we're building right now, is the cabinets and power and the connectivity is already planned. So once we get into a detailed design, once you see the RFP, one of the deliverables is going to be about what we're going to do next once the contract is awarded. And there would be a deliverable of a detailed design that we will sit down and collectively review those and approve those, and then from there on it would be executed. So then again, in response to this, if I understand it correctly, the cabinet space, power, and media is already be planned for that.
Okay. John, I believe this question goes to you. This project will provide an entire new single SID system for all terminals. Is that correct?
Correct. That is to say, video content management and distribution will be centralized for the video sources. One of those video sources is flight information displays or flight information. So, yes, FIDS will be centralized, but it will be centralized as a function of centralizing content management.
Okay. Let's see here. Questions are coming in quite rapidly. Just a minute, please. Okay. Will a 3 to 5 year terminal renovation and improvement plan be provided for our planning? AKA, can I post ads immediately when the person opens the browser? That appears to be two different questions. So let's do the first one. Will a 3 to 5 year terminal renovation and improvement plan be provided for our planning?
I think the answer is yes.
If a bid is not won as the prime contractor, will the subcontracting opportunities for diversity companies for this project? Not sure what they're asking there. They're asking for subcontracting opportunities. I think they probably need to read the RFP and then go from there. We're getting close to the end of the time. Let me look at these questions here quickly. There is one question here, Ali, that you could probably, that's a follow-up to your question about the distributed antenna system. It says, why have you decided to keep the Wi-Fi capability separate from the existing distributed antenna system? Would you want to manage data offloading solutions from cellular to Wi-Fi?
But again, the DAS system in a way is separate because, again, the technology is trying to keep up with the demand of Wi-Fi. So we'll take a look at it again if we propose, but so far it's been best solutions on best breed of product for either systems.
Okay. I think we're going to have to wrap it up, John. We're going to turn it back over to you.
Well, great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate everyone's time today. Appreciate Michael and John and Ali and Dana, from DFW Airport spending some time with us today to review the RFP. Again, we will be, I think I might have mentioned this at the beginning of the webinar, but we will be sending an email to all registrants with a copy of the presentation in PDF format, so be on the lookout for that. This webinar will also has been recorded and will be archived on the RCR Wireless website. And so if you felt like you missed something and wanted to hear it again, sometime in the next 48 hours, that will be published. And again, we will send an email out with that information. But thank you again for the DFW folks and for everyone that attended today, and enjoy your day.
Thank you.
The organizer has ended